My father died of cancer when I was 6 years old. He was 30. My mother, who was pregnant with my sister, was left to raise 3 kids alone. I had no male role model. I had to wing it. But my mom was a strong woman. She had no choice. She had to be. She was a survivor. My story then, I guess, is a story of strength, not necessarily mine. And you might ask, what the hell does my throwing weights around in the garage today have to do with anything important, really? I'm 74 years old now, and I've been thinking about all this, brooding, dropping sweat on a dumbbell. I wonder what I'm doing. What does bench pressing a fairly heavy weight in a garage actually mean when you're as old as I am? Does it mean I'm entitled to still pound my ancient chest as a relatively strong guy? Does it mean I could lose some body weight and try and get buff and pose like so many, admiring myself in a mirror? Is that all it means to push up a heavy, resistant weight in old age? Superficials. When I was a little kid, I dreamed of finding arrowheads and dinosaur bones. Wherever I could find such things, I thought that would be heaven. Today in my 70s, I don't find dinosaur bones, but I find arrowheads hundreds of years old all around my house. I first touched a barbell when I was a teenager, and I've used them off and on all across my lifetime. I'm 74, and I'm pushing up weight again. For the ancient people who lived around my house hundreds of years ago, as tough as they were, being 40 was an old man. But here I am, pulling another mysterious arrowhead out of my garden. How, I wonder, did they and I get here? My mother developed Parkinson's disease in her early 80s, and then over a 7-year period, deeper and deeper dementia. Despite being a kind of bum-like world traveler, chasing the whims of my heart and not a dollar, I ended up being the caregiver for my mom, sharing the burden off and on with my sister, the one who wasn't born yet when my dad died, my sister who lived in another state. This was the lowest, the darkest point in my life. Over a long period, I watched my mother, who I loved profoundly, die. I didn't know anyone in the community where my mother lived. I wasn't from there. I had no friends in that area. I had no support. My mother suffered. I suffered. I felt trapped, and we both endured her demise for years. Weightlifting wasn't on my radar then. It was enough to get out of bed in the morning and face another rough day. One of my hobbies over the years has been to collect daguerreotypes. At least in the past, when you could pick them up cheaply at flea markets and such. They're the earliest form of popular photography, available from 1839 to about 1855. Daguerreotypes always intrigued me. There was no negative in that photographic process. They are one-of-a-kind imprints of a former life, just like fossils. The people you see in daguerreotypes are usually anonymous. There's no information about them. Each individual has become merely a symbol, an icon, a representation of what? Generic humanity, the continuum of human endurance, and the inevitable mortality. The actual image of a daguerreotype is on a thin, delicate sheet of silver. So strangely, not only is it an image of people from the distant past, it also functions just like a mirror. As you stare at such an image, not only do you see a stranger who lived 170 years ago, you see yourself. My mom knew that I collected daguerreotypes, and before she got catastrophically sick, she ran across this one in an antique shop and bought it for me, a present for my birthday. This is it, a woman and what may be her son. My mom liked the image, especially because it echoed the mother-son bond between me and her. I can rhapsodize about this, an abstract love that continues to transcend the centuries. Well, I can read all sorts of things into it. In any case, not only was the old picture about the physical details of two ancient, anonymous strangers, it also reflected the connection between my mom and me. It still does. That seems like some form of strength too, doesn't it? Lots of people who are really physically strong or economically strong, whatever, are in emotional ways without love, even genuine self-love or self-respect, dangerously weak. There came a time when it was impossible for me or my sister to take care of my mother. The burden was impossibly overwhelming, and she had to go to a nursing home. When this happened, I was kicked out of the house where she lived. I had no money, no job, no future. I had no hope. I faced an abyss. I was 61 years old. I had had my share of girlfriends and such over the years, but there was no one in my life at that time, at least no one in close proximity, that really meant anything to me. I mention this because this too is about strength, whether I wanted it or not. I didn't know what to do. But you never know what's around the corner. You have to keep moving, falling forward, crawling ahead, and you have to lay the table for something good to happen, maybe for lightning to strike, or even a pretty leaf drifting onto you, reminding that there is, even in your darkest hours, still such a thing as beauty. Just like getting old and weightlifting, there are a million variables in life, but if you decide that you're beaten, then that is certainly what you are. The easiest thing in the world to do is to not field your team, to surrender. Eventually, in my 60s, I had to start a new life with a new job in another state. Not easy at 30, let alone as old as I was. I didn't know a soul in the new environment. I lived in my pickup truck for a short while, occasionally in a campground, sometimes off a four-wheel drive rut in the forest, and then rented a tiny one-room apartment in town. Over time, as the job became established, I decided that I wanted my own home. I never had one. I never had aimed for one either, but getting older I wanted that kind of refuge. So, in order to save money for the down payment for a home, I lived in my pickup truck for 6 months. It wasn't as dirty then, but here it is. This was home. Eventually I bought a house, although I'll never pay the bank mortgage off in my lifetime. Found a good wife, very much younger than me, 2 great little dogs, embraced the inexplicable storms of a teenage stepdaughter, and discovered ancient arrowheads that sometimes make their ways up out of the surrounding soil around the house, like magic plants, reclaiming scrutiny and visibility. And don't they say that plants produce oxygen? And I've got a garage gym, a beautiful, cramped, dirty garage gym full of my wife's cat puke and weird stringy stuff that blows in when the garage door is open. If you think that I'm affluent because of the fact I've got literally tons of weightlifting objects, you'd be wrong. I've scrounged this stuff from thrift shops, yard sales, public auctions, and such. I've got this stuff because I prioritize the idea of staying strong and the therapy of it over, say, getting a new car or a night out at a restaurant or a new giant TV or a pair of fancy pants with a silver belt buckle. When I got the house, I decided very importantly that I needed a garden. My mom influenced me as an avid gardener, and I wanted a big bouquet of life around me. I built it alone, lugging home sandstone slabs from places where I sometimes hiked. It was certainly weightlifting of a sort, towards a very practical end. I got down on my hands and knees, laid out a flagstone walkway, planted all sorts of trees and flowers, built a vaguely Pueblo ruins environment that harkened to the Native Americans who once lived here, with a spiritual center, sort of a kiva. But nature keeps pounding at it. Today the garden is riddled with weeds, pummeled by hungry pocket gophers, rock squirrels, pack rats, drought, disease. My garden today sometimes feels like the ruins of Persepolis, and I stand in the middle of its erosion, disillusioned, despairing. Like the Deerotypes, I often wonder, am I looking into some kind of mirror again? There's a famous influential movie called Citizen Kane. Maybe you know it. It is revealed in its plot that a rich and powerful media mogul's most precious possession in his whole life was Rosebud, a simple sled he owned as a kid. Maybe this is my Rosebud, my uniform from the Sherriggs Wildcats, a baseball team I was on when I was 13. This getup reflects probably the happiest days of my life. Isn't that strange that something no one else in the world cares about means so much to me? I was a very good baseball player. I batted cleanup on 2 different teams during the same season, and they both came in first place in their respective leagues. Sherriggs Wildcats in some Forgotten Kids organization, and a St. Anne's Church team in the Catholic CYO League. But I don't bat cleanup anymore. Far from it. Not much glory after those days, like anyone, I guess. Sometimes it feels like I've climbed out after a week in a washing machine. But it is enough to go into my garage gym alone, no cheers about anything, to weightlift again. I feel good or I feel bad, but I try to inch up a little bit more in strength. No trophies, no medals to be garnered. What's at stake with every repetition isn't that I can beat some other guy with bigger muscles or more determination and push more weight than he can away from me. I don't need to break anyone's record but my own. And even that is usually failure. You've got to try. What I'm competing against is a lot more powerful than any hyper-motivated Samson who can crush me like a bug by 200 pounds. And at 74, I don't need to lose body weight, take off my shirt, and parade around like I'm a vainglory 22 again. What's at stake is that I am still in old age, game for a fight, even if I'm hurling feathers at a mountain lion. There's another nasty storm on the horizon sooner or later, and I've got to brace my body, old bones propping up my very soul, like everyone, for the roar of attack. Remind myself, as long as I've got the will to push up this resistant weight, fight damn gravity, yes, there is still time. When I find an arrowhead around the house, I consider it very seriously. I understand the discovery like this. Centuries ago, someone chiseled a flint or obsidian point, glued it to his shaft, drew back his bow, and flung the thing across time and history, minding my own business, farting around my home that was once theirs. The arrowhead arrives, driving into me, not in the back or the thigh, but straight through my startled heart, right to my very core. That frail spot of doubt and worry where I am probably the weakest. What happened to the person who made this thing? You want to know how I trained for the bench press? What food? What routine? How often? What equipment? Hell, you wonder, how does an old guy like me manage to successfully carry his groceries to the car? People, I'm sorry to disappoint you. Everybody's life is an obstacle course. These are some of my own hurdles and how I fell over them. It is the best I can offer you. It is everything I know about getting strong.